What if you didn't have to wait years for your transformation? What if the quantum jump you've been seeking isn't hiding in your distant future, but quietly waiting in a single shift you could make today? They made you believe it takes time, that you have to heal everything first, that you need to fix all your patterns, understand all your wounds, clear all your karma, and only then, maybe, you'd finally be ready to shift. They taught you that the leap comes after effort, after deserving, after proving you're good enough. But that's not the truth. The truth is, quantum reality doesn't operate on time. It responds to frequency. And your next jump? It's not about effort. It's about precision, about choosing the exact energetic signature that matches the version of you who's already living the life you dream of, and dialing it in. Think of it like a safe. You can push harder. You can try every tool. You can scream and fight and demand it to open, but nothing moves until the right combination clicks. And when it does, it doesn't resist. It just opens. Joe Dispenza often reminds us, your future isn't something you move toward. It's something you collapse into when your inner world aligns with it. You don't create a new reality by chasing it. You become it. Your energy goes first. Reality follows. Still, most people stay stuck. Not because they don't want the shift, but because they don't know how to access the portal within. The door is already inside them, but the noise, the stories, the emotional residues of the past keep scrambling the signal, so they repeat and call that destiny. That's why this video exists, to help you break that loop, because today I'm going to share with you 3 precise, real-world practices that can accelerate your shift, not someday, not in theory, but starting now. You don't need more struggle. You need alignment, you need coherence, you need access, and that's what I'll guide you into, one layer at a time. So if this message speaks to something inside you, if it stirs a memory you can't quite name but you know it's real, then subscribe to this channel right now and walk this path with me. Don't wait. Don't let this moment fade. If it called you, it's for you. Subscribe and let's keep going. Because next, we go deeper into the first practice, and this one is about breaking emotional loyalty to the version of you that's keeping you stuck. This part changes everything. Practice 1. Timeline calibration. There's a version of you that you've already outgrown, but part of you still keeps showing up as them. You wake up, you feel a familiar tension, you react to situations the same way. You tell yourself you're moving forward, and maybe you are on the surface, but underneath there's an emotional loyalty anchoring you to a timeline you said you left behind. Why does that happen? Because your body doesn't just remember, it repeats. It becomes addicted to the frequency of the past, not out of desire, but out of identity. Bruce Lipton describes this beautifully. The subconscious mind isn't logical, it's habitual. It memorizes emotional patterns and plays them back like a soundtrack, even when the story has already ended. You think you're stuck because you haven't found the right breakthrough. But the truth is, you're emotionally calibrated to a version of you who doesn't know the breakthrough even exists. Let me give you a picture. Imagine you're trying to tune into a radio station. You're turning the dial, looking for the right frequency, but your hand keeps going back to the old setting because it's the only one you know by heart. You want a new song, but you're still humming the old chorus. Here's the process. We start with what I call the memory disruption technique, not by fighting your memories, not by healing them endlessly, but by interrupting their rhythm in real time. It looks like this. When you catch your mind looping into a memory, a worry, a what if, you pause. You break the script. You do something that contradicts the old self, even if it's small. You drink water with presence. You touch your chest and take a single breath. You look out the window and remind yourself, I'm no longer there. I'm already on my way here. And here's where it becomes quantum. Each time you disrupt the loop with awareness, you're not just calming your nervous system. You're recalibrating your field. You're teaching your body a new rhythm. And when the body learns, the timeline responds. But what if the most powerful shift isn't in some big leap, but in one moment where you decide to stop being loyal to your old pain? Let me say it clearly. Calibration is not about fixing. It's about tuning. Tuning your emotions to the signal of the life you say you're ready for, not the one you're secretly expecting to repeat. Pause now, just for a breath. What emotion would your future self no longer carry? What thought would they refuse to loop? What version of you can you release today? And as you feel that answer rise, let it become a word, a single word that grounds your shift, a word that belongs to your next timeline. Write it in the comments, leave your imprint here. Maybe it's liberation, maybe it's clarity, maybe it's presence. Whatever word came to you, that's the frequency you just began calling in. Now we move forward, and the next practice goes even deeper, because now we explore the physical embodiment of your future self. Not just how you think, but how you move, how you mirror the version of you who already lives the shift. And once you understand this, you'll never move through your day the same way again. Practice 2. Micro-mirroring. What if your transformation isn't something you wait for, but something you reenact? We often believe the shift will happen when we finally feel ready, but readiness isn't a feeling, it's a decision. And sometimes the signal for your next jump is sent not by your thoughts, but by your body. This is where micro-mirroring begins. You already know the version of you you wish to become. Maybe they're calmer, more grounded, more decisive, more expressive. You may not have the full picture, but there's one small behavior they consistently embody. Something clear, tangible, repetitive, and powerful. So here's the key. You pick one, just one, and you begin doing it today, not half-heartedly, not as a test, but as a sacred mirror. Let me give you an example. Let's say your future self starts the morning with stillness before they check their phone. You adopt that, not because someone told you to, but because it's already encoded in your future timeline. Every time you do it, you're sending a quantum signal that says, I'm no longer rehearsing, I'm remembering. This isn't about faking confidence, it's about physically breaking your agreement with the old version of you, one tiny gesture at a time. Micro-mirroring is powerful because of the science behind it. Your brain is full of mirror neurons, cells that fire not only when you act, but when you observe others, and more importantly, when you imagine yourself being different. When you move as your future self, even in small ways, your neurons begin rewriting your self-image. The brain doesn't know if it's pretend. The field only knows you're broadcasting something new. You don't need to change your entire routine. You just need to shift the energy with which you do something ordinary. But what if your most ordinary gesture became a portal? Let me offer this. Your old timeline is built on repetition. So is your new one. The only difference is which version of you you're rehearsing. Pause now. Take a breath. What is one simple behavior your future self would never forget to honor? Maybe it's the way they breathe when under pressure. Maybe it's how they choose silence over noise. Maybe it's how they stand, how they listen, how they greet the morning. Now imagine that action already lives inside you. We're not building a new you. We're listening to the one who's always been here, just waiting to be embodied. And that brings us to the next layer, because no matter how aligned you are, if your field is overstimulated, your signal gets drowned in noise. So next, we enter the quiet. We step into a space where clarity isn't created, it's remembered. Let's go even deeper. Practice 3. Sensory isolation. You're not broken. You're just overloaded. Your field, Your nervous system, your perception, your emotional body is saturated. Too much input, not enough integration, too many voices, not enough stillness. And when the signal gets crowded, the soul goes silent. That's why the third practice isn't about doing more. It's about subtracting, creating intentional pockets of emptiness, not as escape, but as activation. This is called sensory isolation, not in the extreme, not in deprivation, but in sacred stillness. 15 minutes a day, no sound, no screen, no light, no goal. You sit. You breathe. You let the noise float away, not by pushing it, but by refusing to chase it. Why does this matter? Because your soul doesn't scream, it whispers. And right now, that whisper is being drowned by 1,000 pings, notifications, tasks, and loops. The field isn't rejecting you, it just can't get through. Edgar Cayce, often called the sleeping prophet, would enter deep silence to access what he called the Akashic field, a realm of stored soul memory and universal intelligence. He didn't force the answers. He entered the space where they already existed. And that's exactly what you do when you isolate your senses. You're not escaping reality, you're restoring coherence. You're remembering that silence isn't the absence of life. It's the language of origin. Let me give you a modern image. Imagine your inner world is like a lake. Each piece of stimulation, every scroll, every thought, every interruption is a stone being thrown into the water. The ripples keep coming. And no matter how hard you try to see clearly, the surface stays chaotic. But remove the input. Wait. Allow. And the water stills. Suddenly, the reflection returns. This isn't meditation. This is something more primal, more subtle. It's the void space, a conscious return to the beginning, where nothing is expected and everything is heard. You've seen it before, you just didn't know how to read it. That moment before sleep, when you hear your truth clearly. That second in the shower when an idea drops in, that breath alone in nature when you suddenly know something shifted. Those were moments of unintentional sensory isolation. Now, imagine doing it on purpose. Pause now. Really. Feel into this. When was the last time you sat in total stillness, not as absence, but as a portal? Maybe you don't remember. Maybe you've never done it. But your field does. Your energy craves it, not as luxury, but as necessity. Because coherence, alignment, clarity, they don't live in noise, they arrive through silence. Let's pause here together. Just a moment. Breathe, feel, notice. And as you come back, know this. We've now unlocked 3 powerful keys. But for most people, even knowing all this, they still don't shift. Why? Because they've made struggle feel like home, and that's what we'll explore next. The real reason. Most people don't shift. You've done the journaling, you've repeated the affirmations. You've visualized the future, you've tried to hold the frequency, but nothing seems to move. And maybe part of you is starting to wonder, what am I doing wrong? But what if the real block has nothing to do with failure and everything to do with familiarity? Most people don't stay stuck because they lack desire. They stay stuck because struggle feels familiar, because somewhere along the way, we were conditioned to believe that the more we suffer, the more we deserve. That effort equals worth. That pain is the price we must pay for transformation. So even when the field opens, even when the energy shifts, even when the door appears, many don't walk through it because they mistake peace for emptiness, because they've built their sense of identity around the fight. There's a strange comfort in chaos when it's what you've always known. And the stillness of the new timeline? It feels too quiet, too calm, too unfamiliar. So the ego whispers, this can't be it. And you go searching for the next wound, the next block, the next reason to wait. But let me offer you a different view. What if inner peace isn't the absence of intensity, but the frequency that unlocks your next movement? The quantum field doesn't reward drama. It responds to coherence. It doesn't react to desperation. It tunes to clarity. And clarity begins the moment you stop trying to prove you're ready and start allowing yourself to be. Let me explain. Imagine you're walking out of a storm. For years you've been drenched, shaking, resisting the wind. Then suddenly you step into shelter. The sun touches your skin. There's no noise, just warmth, stillness. But instead of resting, you panic. Something's missing. You run back out thinking that was the work. But the real work was learning how to stay in the peace. Quantum shifts often feel empty at first, not because they lack power, but because they lack noise. The emotional chaos isn't there, the mental loops are quiet, and in that silence, something deeper is finally allowed to speak. Let that truth land. You don't have to earn your shift. You only have to stop running from it. And if you've made it this far into the video, I want to thank you. Your presence here means you're not just watching for information, you're here for integration. So take a moment, breathe. And if you've ever felt like you were addicted to struggle, like ease made you anxious, you're not alone. Let us know in the comments, share your experience. Your story could help someone else recognize their own. And if you haven't yet, subscribe now and join our community. You're not walking this path alone. And the next part of this journey goes even deeper. Because now we'll explore something almost no one talks about, how dopamine, your brain's chemical of motivation, is actually scrambling your frequency. What comes next may completely shift how you relate to your own energy. The dopamine frequency disconnect. There's a hidden glitch in the system, and it's not just energetic, it's neurological. You're trying to raise your frequency, align with your future self, and stay in coherence. But at the same time, you're being biologically wired to crave quick hits of stimulation, validation, and escape. And that's where dopamine comes in. Dopamine is your brain's anticipation chemical. It's not about pleasure itself. It's about the chase for it. The scroll, the click, the maybe the next post will give me something. That micro craving of what's next. But here's the conflict. The quantum field doesn't respond to quick bursts. It responds to sustained presence. So what happens when your mind is trained to spike, while your energy is trying to deepen? You experience the frequency crash. One moment you feel elevated, inspired, connected. You listened to something profound. You journaled with intention. You sat in stillness for a while. But then, your nervous system, conditioned by months, maybe years of digital patterns, goes searching for another high. And when it doesn't find one, the crash begins. Let me give you an image. Imagine you're trying to tune into a sacred chant, a sound that calms your entire system and expands your awareness. But every few seconds there's a sharp beep, a flashing ad, a voice saying, "But wait, look here." Eventually, you stop hearing the chant. Not because it disappeared, but because your receptors can no longer hold its rhythm. This is what's happening to your emotional frequency when your dopamine circuitry is overloaded. Joe Dispenza speaks often about elevated emotions, gratitude, wholeness, connection. But the key isn't just to feel them, it's to sustain them. That means regulating your internal chemistry in a way that supports stillness over spikes. Let me be clear, dopamine isn't bad, it's essential. But when it dominates, it creates a reality based on chasing, and the quantum field isn't impressed by how much you chase. It responds when you become. Pause for a moment now and ask yourself, what do I reach for when silence starts to feel uncomfortable? What's the first thing I grab when I wake up? Is it alignment or distraction? Here's where it gets practical. You don't need to quit all stimulation. But you do need to notice your patterns, interrupt them, reclaim your rhythm. Maybe that looks like a 5-minute pause before opening your phone. Maybe it's 1 hour a day without any digital input. Maybe it's the conscious choice to let boredom be a doorway instead of a trigger. Because boredom isn't lack, it's space. And space is where frequency settles. We're not just trying to escape the matrix, we're trying to detox from the chemical cravings that keep us running in circles, instead of sitting in the stillness that activates everything. And that brings us to something few people ever consider: timing. Because not all moments are created equal. Some are portals, and if you miss them, the door doesn't just wait, it closes. Next, we'll talk about how to recognize those shift windows, and why your next quantum leap might depend on how present you are right now. Shift is not a goal, it's a response. You've been taught to chase the shift, to visualize it, to plan for it, to reach for it like it's somewhere out there. But the truth is, the shift doesn't wait for you in the distance. It responds to you. The moment you change your internal state, your signal, your rhythm, the field moves with you. Your quantum jump doesn't begin with strategy. It begins with permission, not with a plan, but with presence, not with effort, but with alignment, not with force, but with resonance. The 3 practices you've discovered today aren't formulas, they're keys. Each one designed to unlock the part of you that already knows how to shift, but forgot it was allowed to. Timeline calibration helps you break emotional loyalty to who you used to be. Micro-mirroring lets you embody your future in real time. And sensory isolation gives you back the signal that's been drowned out by noise. But none of them work if you wait for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment is always now, the moment you respond. So let me ask you something, and answer it from your center. Which of these practices are you ready to begin today? Not all of them, just one, the one that feels alive, the one that speaks your name, because the shift already began, and now it's your turn to respond. Thank you, truly, for walking this far with me, for opening your energy, for sharing your presence. You being here, still watching, still breathing with this message, means something moved. And that movement is real. I invite you to write in the comments, what spoke to you most? What moment cracked something open? Leave your like if this resonated with you, not for numbers, but as a signal. I received this. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel. Walk with us. You're not alone in this shift. We're building something sacred here. A space where transformation isn't forced, it's remembered. And if you want to go deeper, the next video waiting for you in this journey is right here. Click on it and step into the next layer of your becoming. You're not at the end, you're at the beginning that's always been inside you, because the reality begins where your old pattern ends.